I have always been aware of my race, even if I claimed the ethnicity Asian other because I wanted my half Punjabi and half Sinhalese origin not to be minimized to just being Indian. I was a brown girl, and for a while, that seemed like my whole personality. My parents never taught me or my brother about our culture. They have been in the UK for so long that they have assimilated into that of a white Christian family. It made things confusing. When I was with my white friends, I was never white enough. And when we would visit family, they would complain about how white we were. When I would visit the other part of the family, they would complain about my weight and my complexion. You're getting too dark, they would say during the summer, which is generally what happens when one is in the sun. For them, being too dark was a bad thing. They strived to be lighter, whiter, not just in their complexion, but in their mannerisms as well. My family are immigrants. They worked hard for what they have, and yet they've experienced everyday racism from white people who believed they had a better claim to this country, whilst their ancestors, not too long ago, had invaded ours. Yet the colonial mindset of white is right was ingrained deep. My family bought into the model minority mindset, preferring to do what they could to gain the approval of the white majority and ignore the suffering of other minorities. Even my dad looked down on people of his own race, a part of him feeling superior because he had no longer an accent, and the only part tying him to his race was his skin tone. Looking back on it, I wish I had the courage to speak up whenever they made ignorant comments, but speaking to my family like that was never easy, especially when they just saw you as an outspoken little girl. It was only years later, when we had moved out of the small racist city I had grown up in, that my mother told me of how unwelcomed we had been. 2 slashed tires and the derogatory threat calling our family the N-word left on our windshield when I was a toddler was our neighborly welcome. We stayed in that house for 15 years. As I grew up in high school, I made jokes of it, of my own coconut state, appearing brown on the outside, being white on the inside, whatever that meant. I liked to be funny. I liked to make jokes about my race because I thought it would make my majority of white peers like me. So I let things slide. I let the badly done imitations of Indian accent slide, or the, hey, I had a curry last night slide, when I had no idea how that concerned me. It wasn't until I was older, until I educated myself, because my school never did, on the seriousness of racism and how so many people like me experienced what I had, that I wished I hadn't been that pick-me girl. It was like being an island, growing up and navigating the already difficult war zone that is high school. Teachers never being able to pronounce my name, or when that one teacher called me India because a white girl in our class had the same name. I never quite enjoyed her classes after that. Then there was that one lesson about India, a place I had never been to. I knew just as much as my other peers about. But then I was singled out, my teacher asking me, "How is it in India? Why don't you tell the class?" It's funny how I remember these experiences over what I actually learned. Being a lower class South Asian girl in a middle class white environment was all I knew until I shared my experiences with others like me. But the small everyday encounters still hurt. When my friends would do each other's makeup, I would just laugh off the fact that most makeup shades never really fit my skin tone, or pretend not to feel like an outsider when they talked about tanning, putting their arms against mine and saying, "Look, I'm almost as dark as you." These were friends that apologized to me when they made a racist black joke, who grouped all the people together who weren't white as being black. I argued at first, saying I wasn't black, but I was met with, "Well, you basically are," and a laugh. I laughed along because if I didn't, it would be awkward, and our friendship wasn't worth that, was it? Truthfully, I'm ashamed. I look back at a memory living in my mind of when I witnessed my white friends being racist to one of the only other Indian girls in my school. They said her parents were terrorists, claiming them to be suicide bombers or part of ISIS. This person said similar things to me, but we were friends, right? So I laughed it off, ignoring the hurt look on that girl's face because it was only a joke. But then the teacher approached me, visibly uncomfortable from having to deal with such an issue, and asked me, has he said anything racist? I could have come clean. I could have admitted how almost daily all of my friends were racist and had a whole group chat that I longed to be part of where they would say racist and sexist jokes. I felt special because I was the only girl in this group chat, but I didn't confess. I lied. I wanted to keep my friends. I didn't want them to hate me. And what was one little lie anyway? I wish I could go back. I wish I could apologize for not speaking out for this girl I don't even remember the name of. I wish I would have spoken out for me. So I make a point to not stay silent now, because those friends of mine who used me as their token brown friend would have never spoken up for me. To them, saying the N-word was a harmless joke because they listened to rap and they thought that made them cool. Or one of their black friends gave them a pass, so it was okay. Now, years later, I see them posting black squares on Instagram, thinking that one square of pixels absolves them from everything they've done and everything they never did, like speaking out. When I went to university, I was surrounded by diversity, and I felt for once that I did not stand out because of my race. There was still racism everywhere, but for once I could focus on just being a girl. A whole different myriad of difficulties awaited me. I met a boy who made me cry. When he left me standing in the cold because I wouldn't take him back to my dorm, a security guard had embarrassed him by asking him if I was okay when he saw how this boy tried to lead me back to my dorm and I kept pulling away. He told me he felt so humiliated, and I ended up apologizing to him because I wanted him to still like me. I didn't realize how bad what happened was until I told some friends, and they didn't laugh like I expected them to. During the pandemic, two main events shaped my time: the murder of George Floyd and the murder of Sarah Everard. One to do with race and the other with gender. It hurt to see so many people turn the issue into an all lives matter or not all men issue rather than facing the actual issue at hand. There is deep-rooted racial inequality and sexism in the UK. People like to ignore it and sweep it under the rug like they did when they denied me and other students a real education on race and gender. Silence is violence was spread across social media, yet people remained quiet. When I confronted my friends, those I wished would defend me like others and others like me, I was met with, I don't want to get political, or similar excuses. However, in my mind, defending someone's basic human rights was not an issue of politics, but of being decent, caring human being. I realized that as long as my white and male peers remained silent, the issue would never truly be resolved. The truth was, so many people didn't want a loud brown girl getting emotional over issues, and I was repeatedly silenced. Even my own family got fed up with my activism. They could not even get past their own ignorant views. It seemed to me that people listened to white men and women, people more palatable, and that to even be taken seriously, I would have to change myself. Then I realized that it was not my job to make other people comfortable. Change does not come from being comfortable. So I was fine with being the loud brown girl because I had things I wanted to say, things I was passionate about, so I continue speaking loudly.